Welcome to Sitting with Sallie. I have Miranda Elder with me. She's with the Northwest Health Unit, a outreach peer worker, peer support worker.
Outreach worker, yeah.
With the harm reduction program. So tell me what it is you do at the Northwest Health Unit.
Well, it's kind of a long list of things. I volunteered for a few years before they hired me on a contract position, and then they finally made me a part-time employee. I think they got used to having me around, maybe. But right when I was in the hospital, actually having my daughter, is when I got the news that they were going to create a position for myself and my coworker. So yeah, I think the original reason was that I can gain access to some of the locations that they're not able to get into. So because I know a lot of people in my peer group, I guess, I'm able to get into apartment buildings that would otherwise have no clean supplies and, you know.
Okay. So you work in harm reduction.
Yes.
So you are working with people who are addicted to drugs.
Yes.
And may or may not be in different stages of recovery.
Yes, definitely. That's a good way of putting it.
And you're talking about getting into the buildings. You want to get into buildings. Part of harm reduction is making sure
Yes.
people use clean needles.
Yes. So actually, we're supposed to say new needles now, not just clean, because we used to tell people, well, I didn't, but that you can use a bleach and water solution and boil them. That's no longer the case. It's new every time. Every time. So, and most people know that. But also it's important to use new spoons, filters, and these are all things that come in the needle kit from the health unit. So there's a number of items that you would need to use every time. So it does add up to quite a bit. So we make sure that they have safe disposal, like containers, obviously. Anything really with hard sides people can use to dispose. And then there are some permanent fixtures downtown. You'll see them. They're kind of, most people wouldn't notice them, I think. They're black boxes.
I've seen them. They look like little mailboxes.
Yeah.
And they
so that's to help combat the people discarding them, right? We want to keep people safe. And, yeah.
So harm reduction, the idea is that while eventually you want people to get into recovery,
yes,
you want to meet them where they're at, and you want to make sure that if they're using needles, they aren't going to get some other infectious disease.
Yeah, so basically, if you can come out the other side of an addiction with, you know, the least amount of harm done to yourself possible, that's a good thing. You know, it's important to help fight HIV, Hep C, to have new works. Also, lots of people don't know you can actually contract Hep C through using like snorting with money or straws. It's actually, you're able to pass it through that as well.
Yeah, because of saliva.
Yeah, so I always tell people that they shouldn't be using bills, rolled up bills to do lines. They should be getting, you know, even a Post-it or straws. So we do have snorting kits available as well.
And again, a new one every time.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you are a peer outreach worker.
Yes.
That gives you some experience.
Yes. That was, you know, part of the reason I think that they saw value to adding me to the team. Basically, yeah, I was addicted to multiple substances, since about high school. And it took me many years I tried numerous times to, you know, gain sobriety. Things got worse for me in Kenora. My use escalated pretty fast. And actually what saved me was the drug treatment court and the MECA program, which is a methadone maintenance therapy program. And then, of course, the health unit, because when you get sober, all of a sudden you have all this extra time because an average person who's an opiate user, let's say, is going to spend 80% of their waking hours getting money finding a source, and preparing their drug.
And you have to do this every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're talking a couple $100s a day at least.
Okay. So when we talked about your voyage, we talked about recovery, I mentioned that it's like a chronic disease.
Yeah, very much so. And that's the thing, if you gain that sobriety and you don't have something to put all that energy into, then there's this period of time where you are left at home with nothing because you have to kind of change your peer group for at least a period of time, kind of keep to yourself for a couple of months while you're getting to the stage that you're.
And you've got all this extra time that you don't know.
So then, yeah, the health unit for me was what kind of saved me because it allowed me to put all this energy into something.
And that's when you were volunteering.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
okay. Can you just talk a little bit? You said the drug court saved you. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It's a court program. So there's mental health court, and then there's also drug treatment court. So basically it's tailored to people who have, I think it's only provincial offenses, but it's geared towards helping people better their lives, not just punishing them, I suppose. So it's kind of, for me, there was stark differences from regular court to drug treatment court.
And drug treatment court, they work with you for a longer period of time?
Yeah, it depends on the case, and you're held accountable that way too. So you're going to be doing talking to counselors. That's how I got connected with my grief and trauma counselor. And I kind of thought that all counselors were the same. You just kind of sit down and talk to them, and that's not the case. The one that I have now, it's like I leave there 100 pounds lighter every time I go see her. So they're great for that. So there's someone to answer to. So.
And this brings it back to so that when you are working with people who may not be in recovery, you have what's called lived experience,
yeah.
not lived experience.
Well, kind of lived into it.
Yes, lived in your life.
Yeah. So
it makes it more real then.
Yeah, it does, and I'm able to connect with them, and especially in such a small town, I think people remember the old me, which is fine with me because that's part of me too. So I think that's why people are able to open up to me. And even when I wasn't with the health unit, I think I was kind of one of those people that I would get a phone call, can you come look at this? I don't know what's going on. Stuff like that. So it was just kind of a natural fit.
And you talking so openly about your past experience, I think connects to what we've talked about off camera, shaming culture. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I never really realized until I got sober all of there's of course stigma. Lots of my clients won't access healthcare at all because of the way that they're treated by medical professionals. And then, the way that the police are continuously harassing people even when they've gained sobriety. So all that stuff leads back into the shaming culture. And I mean, unless you start addressing those issues at the core, it's never going to change, right? So we need to accept it as part of your life and,
Addictions are not treated like any other illness.
No, it's very much shameful. People don't, I heard this somewhere. Someone said to me, her son was suffering from an addiction, I guess, and she said, oh, where's my pie? Where's the neighbors knocking on my door because my son is sick? It just doesn't happen. And it's sad because it perpetuates the addiction, right? Because you're being shamed, you're going to have more negative feelings that you're going to want to essentially numb with drugs or alcohol.
And it's going to also, it's an extra barrier to move forward and get help.
Yeah, very much so. There's lots of things will prevent people. That's why lots of people don't realize, even when you're going into, say, Morningstar Center, it's hard enough to go and ask for help. But when there's, say, a police car sitting out front and, maybe you have conditions, you're not going to access those services. So it's important. That's one of the things that I do. I will meet people outside of the office, get them fresh supplies. We can even come to them to do Hep C or HIV testing. And the health unit also has like STI clinics and sexual health clinics. So.
It sounds like that although recovery is the end goal, you meet people really where they're at.
Yeah, that's exactly the purpose.
You aren't judgmental.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's important to get tested regularly for Hep C and to be having some context. So some of the clients that I see, I might be the only person that they talk to all month. They're not going to counselors or, accessing other agencies because the addiction is taking a hold and they're not leaving their apartments in some cases.
It's probably also important not only to get the testing, but to get whatever medical attention is necessary.
Exactly. And that's something too. I like to encourage people to go to the health unit to get their testing. Because when you find out, say you find out that you're positive, if you find out, say in a doctor's office, sometimes you're waiting about 6 months until you get to see your Hep C specialist. So there's a big window of time when you don't know what that diagnosis means for you. Whereas if you get tested somewhere at the health unit or somewhere like it, you're going to have those supports ready for you, and they're going to provide you the information at the time.
And you're going to get some counseling about what you can do and what you shouldn't do.
And they can definitely give me a call. I know a lot about the treatment options and that are available right now. So.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back.
Great.
Welcome to Sitting with Sallie. I have Miranda Elder with me. She is a peer outreach worker of the Northwest Health Unit.
Yeah. I actually was wanting to tell a short story about something that happens to a lot of people that are actively using. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. I was with a couple of friends walking downtown, and one of my friends ran up to me and said, our friend, let's call her Sue, Sue's dying in my basement. Can you please come in and help me? So I dropped my purse, and my other friends wouldn't come in, ran down there, got to the basement, and Sue's face was blue, her hands were blue, and she wasn't breathing. So I'd taken CPR years ago, so I knew a bit of what to do. So I basically just dragged her off the bed, tried to get air into her lungs, but her jaw, she wouldn't take the air. Basically, I couldn't get it in. My friend called an ambulance, and this was right downtown. I could tell the ambulance was trying to convince her that she didn't need an ambulance sent to that location. So I grabbed the phone and kind of got a bit forceful, and the ambulance got there, and unfortunately, Sue didn't make it. And it turns out a year or so after that, the friend that called me in off the street actually took her own life. So I'm the only one alive from that day, and I kind of regret not going and visiting with her more. And that's one thing I wanted to encourage is if you have someone that's using or suffering from depression, drop in more. Don't let yourself, talk yourself out of going over and lending a hand.
Drop in more even though they may not want to see you.
Yeah. And so anyway, about a week after that, my good friend and coworker Will told me about this program called naloxone and naloxone training through the health unit, but at Morningstar. So it saves people from opiate overdoses, which is what Sue passed away from. So I went and took the course, and the nurse at the time told me that I could be trained to train other people. And I thought that was amazing. So I took the course. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So I do that through the health unit, through my role. I train people who have used opiates in the last 6 months. And if it's friends or family of someone who's using, I used to have to turn them away. Now I can send them to No Frills Pharmacy, and they can take the training through the pharmacy. It's free of cost. And basically it's just an injection that goes into the leg, and you would give it to someone who is overdosing from opiates. And if you don't know what their deal is, why they're laying down, if you know that they use opiates, you can inject them with it, and it won't do any harm if that's not the cause of the medical issue.
And if it's opiate, naloxone reverses the opiate.
Yeah, it basically takes it out of the brain receptor and blocks that receptor. So it does wear off after about 45 minutes. So you have 45 minutes to get them to medical, like a hospital. And you should be calling 911 before administering it anyway. I was lucky enough, though, to, actually, there was only about a couple months ago, one of my friends and clients, I was at the Morningstar Center just having coffee, and someone ran in and said, we'll call him Joe. Joe's overdosing. And does anybody have naloxone? And one of the workers at Morningstar asked me if I had my naloxone kit, and I didn't have it. But I thought I'd run over there anyway. So I ran down the hill, ran into the apartment building, and there he was on the floor. And another girl that I know was doing CPR already. So she was already doing what needed to be done at the moment. So I just kind of screamed and screamed and screamed for naloxone, and I took over CPR, and another client ran in with just one vial of it. So normally in a kit, there's the vial of the naloxone. There's 2 of them actually. And then there will be 2 syringes. But all that the client had was this one vial. So, and he says, well, we can't do anything. There's no kit. Well, I think I called him Joe. Joe on the floor there had his syringe that he used to inject fentanyl, which is what he overdosed on. So I grabbed that and broke this open and injected him in the leg. And it took maybe a minute, and he started breathing, taking breaths in. And I went outside and waited for the ambulance, and he's alive now. So I'm going to make him sign a consent so I can get a picture with him, because it's such a nice thing to be able to share with people that, it has saved a life. So
this is similar to the kit.
Yeah, this is just my training kit. It's actually doesn't have all the items in it. But basically, you're reminding people of their CPR. So I think it's 30 compressions to 2 breaths. They're more concerned about the compressions now, the chest compressions. So basically, it's got the 5 steps to save a life. It tells you how to use the kit essentially. It's got a cover for your mouth so that when you're doing mouth to mouth, it doesn't, I guess you don't swap
Come in
spit.
contact. Yes.
So, but I mean, honestly, I don't know how much time you're gonna have to.
And the syringe, it sounds like a little bit of an EpiPen because you do it right
Yeah.
through the clothes,
You can get
right?
it right through the clothes. This guy was, because I used a syringe off that comes in one of our kits for using. It was just a little tiny pin. These ones actually go to about here. And these ones that are in the kit, when you finish injecting, the tip retracts into the barrel. So that
You don't have to worry
almost like
about it.
Yeah, so that you don't have to worry about someone getting poked, which is nice.
So you mentioned fentanyl. It's an opiate too then?
Yeah, it is actually the strongest opiate, stronger than heroin. And for the longest time, there have been patches. It's almost like, it looks like a nicotine patch essentially. And you know, people have been selling those for quite some time in Kenora. And I was kind of grateful that we hadn't seen the liquid or the powder around at all. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. There is powdered fentanyl in Kenora. It's so strong that it has to be cut with something because it would be literally too small of an amount to sell. So, I mean, people are overdosing like that because it's impossible to dose when you're buying something that's mixed.
And it's made elsewhere, so no one knows what the dosage is.
Yeah, actually, that's for the patches. So when the pharmaceutical company is manufacturing them, basically, say it's a 100 ml patch, they just have to get that 100 mils anywhere on the patch. So they don't care if it's all in the upper right corner. But when Joe goes to cut it in 4 and sells that 1/4 to somebody, they just overdosed. And other people have nothing. And even when you're putting the whole patch into the cooker, like the spoon for when you're injecting it, people, when you draw it up, the way that it dissolves off of the patch, it's impossible to accurately dose it even when you're putting the whole patch in. So it's just...
it's guesswork how much you're going to get. Yeah,
and that's even when it's coming right from the manufacturer, never mind the powdered version. So.
And we've, on the news lately, there have been quite a few stories about people dying of fentanyl in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And you're saying now it's coming to Kenora.
Yeah, and they're finding it in other drugs too. And that always perplexed me why someone would use it in an upper when it's like a downer, so to speak. So, but they're finding it in a lot of street drugs as an additive to the drug.
So naloxone has been around for a while, but it sounds like it's just getting out to the public.
Yeah,
I'm hearing it everywhere.
Yeah, they changed the legislation. So it's been around. I've been doing this training for probably 3 years or so, maybe a bit more. No Frills just signed on. They're the first pharmacy in Kenora to be offering the training.
And that's for friends, family,
Anybody.
anybody.
Anyone who needs one or thinks that they might need one. And that includes people that have prescriptions for opiates, because you can overdose just by taking them properly as well. So, and just having those pills in your house, really, that's why it's important to put things away and make sure that you're keeping track of your medication, because someone can accidentally take them, and then that way you have something to save their life, basically.
So it's almost like an EpiPen. If someone...
Yeah, that's how lots of people, I relate it to a lot of people. It's...
So if you're using opiates, if you know someone's using opiates, get the training,
Yes.
learn about
Yeah,
naloxone.
yeah.
Okay, and we'll be right back again. Welcome back to Sitting with Sallie. I have Miranda Elder with me from the Northwest Health Unit. Miranda is a peer outreach worker. And I would like to talk about some of the myths that people have about people who are addicted to substances.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. I run a support group every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and that's for people who are actively using or recovered, or feel that they need any kind of support that way in a group setting. And if people want information, they can give me a call. We try and keep it a little bit discreet, just because it gets to a point where everyone kind of knows what you're doing there. So we kind of keep it on the down low, so to speak. So,
Okay.
But what happens is lots of people assume that you've had some sort of childhood trauma or something horrible happened to you in your early years. And that's not the case. And I found that with a couple of my friends and clients. I had a perfect childhood. I never wanted for anything. I was happy. And I am again now, but I think you know, for me, it was high school. High school's a hard time. And, you know, when you're trying to deal with any kind of depression, you kind of self-medicate. And then I was talking with one of my friends, and we both agreed that there was this feeling of wanting more. And so you kind of craved excitement or adrenaline. And instead of, you know, going skydiving or something, you were using drugs. So I think it's important to understand that people who are suffering from addiction come from all walks of life. They're not one type of person. And really, if you think about it, if you're maintaining a $200 a day habit, you've got to be pretty resourceful and at least a little bit intelligent. So I like to say that you've learned a lot of life skills going through all of this addiction and recovery. So.
And I can see how where people are self-medicating because of pain.
Yes.
And then it gets to the next stage.
And especially when in our culture, it's just whatever the doctor gives you, you take it. And so I think we expect quick fixes. And so it's kind of just goes hand in hand with that. But it is important to know that, yeah, like there's many people are just, there's no explanation. And people often ask me why I started. I have no answer, but I can tell you why I quit. I was just sick of being sick. I was sick of going through withdrawal. I used to have the counselor from Morningstar follow me around town, asking me, are you ready? Are you ready to go to treatment? And finally, you know, then when I was, she was there. So, you know, and it took multiple attempts. I probably 5 or so times.
That's very common.
Yeah. It's
or 5 or so times isn't bad. I've heard 10, 12, 20 times.
Yeah.
Why do you think it takes so many times to,
you know what?
to get into recovery?
It's just like how you change your mind daily, right? And you know, you got to change so many aspects of your life. That's why the methadone maintenance worked for me. The idea behind it is that you're getting everything else in line. So you're getting your housing, your new social circle, getting your health in order, and then you're tackling the withdrawal, the physical withdrawal from opiates, which feels like a cold, a flu, and someone, you know, pulling out your legs all at the same time. And imagine feeling that way and knowing that if you take a pill, it'll go away. It's pretty tough to tackle without a lot of support. So,
how does counseling help when you're going through that?
You know what? Counseling for me, after I gained sobriety, was actually, that's when things really started to click for me. And because when you are an addict for many years, when you're sober, it's almost like you're just a child in a sense with emotions, because you're feeling these things for the first time again, and it's
because
hard to
drugs
regulate.
are tamping them all
because
down.
you've been numbed for however long. So dealing with that can be a huge job, and that's one of the reasons that, you know, people relapse, is because you're dealing with these emotions that feel like 10 times what they actually are. So,
do you find that people that you're working with say, Miranda, how did you do it? Or
yeah, and it's like, they, just like everyone, it's the same thing like when someone's trying to lose weight. You just want the person to say, oh, I ate chocolate cake all day. Well, no, it's hard.
it's work.
Yeah, it is hard. And I think putting something in place for that moment, once you've gained your sobriety, that you can put your energy into. So I have one client actually who's trying to start kind of a youth volunteer hub, so that people that are, you know, struggling with addiction can just go somewhere and then do something, essentially.
How can families or friends help if someone has started?
Just don't do the thing where you know, on the phone and just call me when you're sober and you don't talk to them again. They need more attention, not less. As long as, you know, certain drugs, crystal meth, cocaine, you don't want to be, if they want you to leave, you should probably leave, just because it's going to be more traumatizing to them. And,
aggressive,
you know,
yeah.
But for the most part, you want to be around more and remind them that you're there, even if it's just a phone call, or because if there's no one there, why would you bother getting sober, right? So
let people know you care.
Yeah, and just know that there's options available. Like I will answer my phone at 3 a.m. for clients that call. I'll do that, and it's pretty amazing that I'm not allowed to, but I'm able to help the friends that are still struggling. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm just really lucky to have that available to me. And I think that's why peer work is so important, and you know, Kenora is actually kind of far behind in the field of addictions with our thoughts and the way that, you know, people, the shaming culture again, really. So it's good to see us moving in the right direction.
Do you think that's partly lack of understanding?
Yeah, it is a major part of it. And yeah, you know, people fear what they don't understand, and, you know, anything that people can do, just like a bully would pick on someone, right? So anything that people can do to make themselves feel better, they unfortunately tend to do it. So it's just, yeah, getting more education for yourself. And if you have someone who is suffering from an addiction, you know, take a minute and even just give me a call, and I'll explain, you know, the day-to-days and what the realities are going to be for the next little bit.
It sounds to what you're saying is don't lose sight of the person behind the addiction.
Yeah, and that's really, it brings it right back to harm reduction. You know, if you want as much of that person to still be there on the other side of things. So, yeah.
Important to keep people safe.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds, when you talk before, and I know you go out speaking, the passion for your work just comes through.
Oh, I just love it. I could talk about this stuff all day. I'm lucky to be able to go out and do public education. So if anybody wants to know, or even like a workplace would like some more information, I can come and speak about Hep C, methadone, or just recovery in general.
So just give you a call.
Yes.
Not at 3 in the morning, right? Well, thank you very much for joining us with Sitting with Sallie. You'll have the phone information for Miranda, and I hope this has been helpful.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Awesome.